All right, you may proceed for cross-examination.
Ms. Sneiderman, my name is Bob Rubin, and I represent, along with Mr. Peters, NEUMAN. Based on your testimony and direct examination, you've known that Mr. NEUMAN has been accused of shooting and killing your husband since January of last year, correct?
Correct.
And you've heard or read media reports regarding allegations of an affair between you and Mr. NEUMAN. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Now you have to answer that loud. Go ahead.
Yes.
In that year, you've had a chance to discuss with your lawyer or your friends and family members the series of emails that Mr. Geary with the state has shown you, correct?
No, I've never seen any of those emails, and I didn't have access to any of those emails, nor do I remember every email or the context of every email, so I don't think I discussed one email with anyone.
Okay. You mentioned in direct examination that it's been 2 years and you don't remember all these emails.
Mm-hmm.
Back when Mr. NEUMAN was arrested, it wasn't 2 years since the death of your husband, it was a couple months, correct?
That's correct.
And at that point, things regarding your relationship with Mr. NEUMAN would have been more fresh in your mind. Is that fair to say?
I think the only thing fresh in my mind was that I was to live the rest of my life without my husband and my children without their father.
Did you take an opportunity between January 4th, February, March, April, May, to February of this year to sit down with your attorney and review the correspondence or the relationships or the texts or the calls or the emails between you and Mr. NEUMAN?
No. No, I have met with my attorney several times, but we've never sat down and had a bunch of discussions on specific emails, no.
And your attorney is Mr. Kirschenbaum, correct?
That's correct.
Is he in court today?
He is.
I can't see. Oh, there it is. Did Mr. Kirschenbaum tell you that we had asked, Mr. Peters and I had asked to meet with you back in December of 2011?
Yep, that's correct.
And you chose not to talk to us, correct?
That's correct.
Ms. Sneiderman, Mr. Geary asked you a couple questions about Mr. Sneiderman's work history. Let's talk about your history for a couple seconds, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us, I think you said you graduated from Indiana University, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And did you get any postgraduate degrees?
No, sir.
What was your major at Indiana?
Computer information systems,
And
technology.
Technology.
Mm-hmm.
And what year did you graduate?
98.
What was your initial job graduating from Indiana University?
I worked for a consulting firm straight out of school for a couple of years.
And was that Deloitte Touche?
It was called Deloitte Consulting at the time.
Okay, which later became Deloitte Touche? Or?
I think it was the other way around. But
Okay. And then after work, what did you do for Deloitte?
I did software implementations, custom software development implementations. I basically helped run the projects for major software implementations at companies.
And I'm sorry, how many years did you work for Deloitte?
A little over 2 years.
And after working for 2 years with Deloitte, what did you do?
We moved to Boston.
You and Mr. Sneiderman?
My husband and I moved to Boston. He was starting business school there. And I continued to work for Deloitte for a little while, and then the travel became a little too difficult for me, so I took a job with a startup company, which was very big in that time frame in the year 2000.
And it was also computer or software?
It was software implementations, yeah.
Okay.
And I was a project manager there.
A project manager.
Mm-hmm.
What does that entail?
Every time a client would buy this particular piece of software, I would go in and manage the implementation of the project, the configuration of the software from beginning to end.
Okay. Did you oversee other people?
Yep.
About how many people did you oversee?
At the startup company?
Yes.
Oh, it's a small company, so maybe 4 or so.
Okay. Did you oversee people at Deloitte?
I oversaw clients at Deloitte.
Approximately how many clients did you have?
I don't know, many different projects that I was on during that 2-year span, and so it was 2 or 3 clients on my team at a time.
Okay. Over the course of the 2 years, would it have been a dozen clients, give or take?
Maybe not even that many.
And after the startup company, what did you do?
I went to work for Harvard Business School, and I was hired by the CIO of the school to be a project manager also for their IT department. It was more of a client services role, is what they called it. It was to interface between the technical developers that made the software and the professors and faculty at Harvard Business School. That's how my role started.
Okay, and that's why you were living in Boston?
Yep, but no, we were living in Boston for Rusty to go to school.
I didn't say that's why you were living. That's while you were living in Boston.
While, yes.
Sorry. And how long did you have that job?
The year plus that I had the job as a full-time employee there. And then we moved to Atlanta, and as I stated before, I was in the middle of this massive implementation project that I ran to install what's called a course platform at Harvard Business School, which essentially runs all of the course material and assignments that students view and interact with on a daily basis. So I was implementing a new course platform, and so I had many developers and a lot of responsibility, and so they didn't really want to let me go. So after some small amount of time, if you don't live in the Boston area, you have to become a contractor. So I became a contractor and continued on that project, and then kept rolling from one project to the other, mostly in online course development.
And were you able to work from home while you were working for Harvard Business School, right?
I worked from home, probably traveled at that time back once a month. That was in the beginning. And then over time, I was able, since people knew who I was and know how I work, I was able to extend the trips to every 2 months, every 3 months, just so that I could go back for meetings, major milestones.
Okay. And when you is it fair to say that, and I think I'm quoting you, you were a project manager for Harvard University, focusing on the development of online courses for Harvard Business Publishing. That's the same thing you're just describing, correct?
Those are really 2 separate parts of my job while I was there, but you can generalize it that way if you'd like.
All right. Well, tell us then, what is a project manager for Harvard University focusing on the development of online courses for Harvard Business Publishing?
Okay, so once that course platform project was done and several other projects for Harvard Business School were done, I had only small projects for Harvard Business School. In fact, I worked for Michael Porter in microeconomics of competitiveness, and worked for him to do an online course for him.
Who is Michael Porter? We don't know him. I don't know him.
He's a famous economist that is a university professor at Harvard Business School.
Okay.
And works for presidents, that kind of thing.
Okay, and I'm sorry I interrupted. So you worked for Dr. Porter.
Yep, and I ran some of his online courses, and then when that sort of wound down, and that was only in the past maybe 3 years, 2007 or so, I started to build a relationship with Harvard Business School Publishing, which is actually a separate entity from Harvard Business School. I had worked for several people while they were at Harvard Business School that were now at Harvard Business Publishing, and they liked the work that I did, so they also almost became another client. They wanted to build online courses, so I became a project manager managing Flash developers, which are technical developers, to build these online courses for them.
And is it fair to say that Harvard Publishing was happy with your work?
Oh, yes.
And Harvard Business School was happy with your work?
Yep.
And the startup company was happy with your work?
Yep, until the startup company went down the toilet, yeah.
And Deloitte was happy with your work?
Yep.
Okay, so you had a good career up through Harvard Publishing, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Did you do anything after working for Harvard Publishing?
I had been working for Harvard Publishing until I took the job with GE.
Okay.
And my projects were sort of winding down, and there was a financial crisis going on, as everyone knows. And so they were out of money, not a lot of money being spent on projects. So it was around that January time that I started to look for work and knew that I probably wouldn't have as many projects come my way. So I needed to start looking if I wanted to continue.
Okay. And at this point in January or February, you started looking outside the home for work in the corporate world.
I mostly had submitted my resume to other educational institutions, Emory, other places like that, that had similar IT online course departments like Harvard Business School. I did not submit my resume through any, say, online website or through a recruiter to many corporate jobs.
Well, did you send a resume to Mr. Newman in February of 2010?
Yeah, I didn't send it to him directly. I have a friend, one of Rusty's old college roommates. His wife is friendly with Hemi's wife and in some sort of book club together. So she was actually also this friend of mine, the wife. She was also looking to get, she's an engineer, she was looking to get back into the workforce after having children and staying home. And we were sort of cross-pollinating and commiserating with each other that we were back in the resume world. And, you know, Rusty was helping her with her resume. And, oh, you're looking for a job in Atlanta, I may know someone. And so I sent it that way.
I guess my question was, did you send your resume to Mr. Newman seeking a job?
I did not seek a job directly from him. I was recommended and referred to him by someone else. Is that what you asked?
Did you send Mr. Newman your resume?
I'm sure at some point I did send him my resume, yeah.
May I approach you?
Ma'am.
Ms. Sneiderman, I'm handing you a document that's
Yep.
stipulation number 4094. Do you recognize that email?
Yep.
What do you recognize it to be?
What's the question?
What do you recognize that email to be? What is it? It's an email from you to?
Excuse me, you have to say yes, ma'am, so the court can take
Yeah.
down your responses.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
It's one of those kind of standard looking for a job emails, and I talk about how my friend's mother knows your wife, Relly, from last night's book club, and she mentioned this, and I'm looking for a new position in Atlanta, and she thought you'd be a good contact.
And attached to that email
Yep.
is your resume.
Yep.
So when I ask you if you sent your resume to Mr. Newman, the answer would be yes.
Sure, yes.
Okay.
What's the date on that email?
February 19th.
Of what year?
2010.
Thank you.
Now you started to describe,
Excuse me, sir, what exhibit number is that going to be for you?
Your Honor, since we've stipulated to these documents, I was going to just use the stipulation number so the jury can find these documents.
All right, and that's going to be 4094?
That's correct, Your
All
Honor.
right, that'll be fine.
Ms. Sneiderman, you related in, I believe in direct examination, a little bit about Mr. Sneiderman's work history.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say, I know.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should have learned that from last week. Sorry. From jury selection, but
Just say yes,
different.
that's all I'm asking.
yes.
All right. Go right ahead, Ms. Rubin.
All right. My understanding, and you tell me if this is correct, Mr. Sneiderman worked for a company called Siebel?
Siebel.
Siebel. How do you spell Siebel?
I think it's Siebel. Siebel Systems.
And
They were a big CRM or customer relationship management software company at the time.
that was back in about 2002.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say yes
Yes.
or no? Thank you,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder. Go right ahead.
And he worked for an insurance company at some point, correct?
That's correct. He went into business with another attorney who specializes in life insurance. That's correct.
And is that Northwestern Mutual?
It is.
Okay. How long did he work for Northwestern Mutual?
I don't remember the exact time. I want to say it was a year and a half, 2 years. I don't know. Somewhere in there. I honestly don't remember. Maybe more. I don't know.
And he went from Northwestern Mutual to work for Mr. Patillo, Bob Patillo.
It was,
Or the family, was it foundation or is it?
that's family
A
office. Family office.
Family office for the Patillo family.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how long was he at the Patillo family office?
He was sort of doing two jobs at one time. He was working the Patillo family office and also doing this life insurance thing. So it was all not sort of part of the same thing, but that's just how that worked out. The life insurance business was slow. There was some tax laws that were being implemented that made it difficult. So what did you ask? How long he had been there? I don't know, months and months that he worked with that office.
With the Patillo family office?
Yeah, that's right.
And then did he leave on his own? Was he terminated?
There was nothing to be terminated from exactly. He didn't really work for them.
Was it on a contract basis?
Yeah, I think that's what you would say. I don't exactly remember how the financials worked out, or who paid who, or what hourly, who.
I assume they paid him to work for him.
They did.
Okay. And at some point, he left the family office.
That's correct. They were looking to hire someone else, a more full-time person, and he was sort of a part-time family office contractor guy.
Okay. And then I think you mentioned he went to work trying to build an insurance website.
Mm-hmm. We were doing that together. There was a company that we were trying to start to, he had this idea to connect insurance agents through sort of an association website.
Mm-hmm. And you were helping him with this.
Mm-hmm.
And you put your time and energy into that project.
Mm-hmm.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. At some point, that did not work out. Is that correct?
Correct.
How long did you work at it, you and your husband?
It was myself, my husband, and one other individual.
How long did you work at it?
A couple of months.
Okay. And once that didn't work out, that is when your husband went to work for J.P. Morgan, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. How long did he work at J.P. Morgan?
About a year, I guess.
1 year? And he was terminated from that position, is
Correct.
that correct? Okay. How long after he was terminated did he go to work with Discovery Point?
I don't remember the time. I don't remember the gap in time.
A short time period or a long time period?
It wasn't a medium time period.
Medium time period, okay.
He was in that period also he was looking for jobs, but also looking for possible businesses he could start or businesses he could purchase, and that's sort of what he did, was to try to, find the right one that could use his skills. So, and he was probably the best networker that this city has ever seen.
Meaning he knew a lot of people and was able to engage a lot of people.
Yep.
People liked him.
A lot.
Okay. After working for J.P. Morgan, he went to work after a medium time period with Discovery Point. Is that correct?
That is correct, yep.
And how long did he work at Discovery Point?
Maybe a year?
About a year?
I'm not exactly sure.
And he was terminated from that job. Is that correct? Yes or no?
It was a mutual decision, but that is what is being claimed, that he was terminated. That's correct.
Well, I'm not asking what other people claim. I'm asking you, was he terminated from that position?
Rusty decided to leave the job, and it was a mutual decision, really, that he leave.
He was not getting along with the owners?
That's correct.
Okay. And that is taking then Mr. Sneiderman into about February of 2000?
The week that I started at GE, he quit.
Okay. So, and you started at GE, is it April 12th?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes,
Excuse me.
yes.
Thank you, Ms. Sneiderman.
So around April 12th, the time you're starting work out in the corporate world, away from home, is when he leaves his job or is terminated from Discovery Point.
I asked him to quit his job at Discovery Point.
That's a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And that's around that time period after leaving Discovery Point is when he decided it was better to buy a company than to work for somebody else. Is that
Yeah, that was a mutual decision on
You
our
and
part.
him?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we realized that it was really just making him unhappy to work for other people, and he really was an entrepreneur in spirit and needed to do it on his own. So whatever he needed to do to make that happen was what we were going to do.
And you talked to the police about this when you were interviewed by them, correct? You told the police, in fact, he tried many times to work for companies and never really worked out.
Correct.
Okay, and you told the police, he can't work for anybody anymore. We tried all these times for him to work for others.
Correct. That's what I just said too.
And when he was putting together Star Voicemail, if I'm calling that correctly, you were helping him, you were advising him every step of the way.
That's correct.
Okay. And you had the abilities, you had the technological know-how, the business experience, is that correct?
That's correct.
Describe for the jury what star voicemail is.
Imagine if you were to call someone else's phone, they didn't answer, and instead of hearing, "Hi, this is Susie," and if Susie was 15, you heard, "Hi, this is Justin Bieber. Susie's out with me shopping, and she can't get to you right now, but hey, have a great day." And so it's Justin Bieber's voice, for example, saying Susie's name. So there's a technology of recording that star's voice and merging it with the person's name, and there's a technology there. And then obviously it would be like an app that someone would purchase. So you could purchase the George Clooney, or the Justin Bieber, or the whomever your favorite star was, and that person was sort of giving a quippy kind of whatever you call it message that's their voice instead of yours. That's the business.
Now, that obviously had not taken off at the time you went to start at GE. That was a work in progress, correct?
It wasn't even a work in progress until about June.
Okay.
And even in June, it didn't really start to gain steam until August.
And so when you went to work for GE, at that point, your income was the only income for the household.
That's correct.
Okay. And the benefits that a corporation like GE offers, you were the one who was obtaining those benefits. Mr. Sneiderman didn't have any package of benefits since he wasn't working for anybody.
Correct.
Okay. And he was supportive of you working outside the home, correct?
He was always supportive of me working, period.
Okay. But he didn't want you to feel the pressure to work. He wanted you to work because you wanted to work, correct?
Correct.
He didn't want you to work because he couldn't provide for the family. Is that fair to say?
We mutually provided for our family. That's how things went in my family.
Let me ask you a question. He didn't want you to work because you had to work. He wanted you to work because you wanted to work, correct?
I don't think I've ever heard Rusty say that statement like that, no. I mean, that's just not, we don't communicate in that way.
Well, let me ask you, if you told the police on November 24th, when you were interviewed, he was supportive of me working, but he didn't want me to feel the pressure to work. He wanted to be the provider.
Sure.
Did you tell the police that?
Sure, yeah.
Well,
every
isn't that what
father.
I just said? Isn't that what I just asked?
No, you asked if he said that I didn't have to work, which is not what I said. So that's not exactly what you said.
All right. Is it fair to say that he didn't want you to feel the pressure to work? He wanted you to work because you wanted to work.
And what I said is that he wanted to be the provider of the family.
Right.
That's what I said.
And since
he had some big hopes and dreams for us as a family.
He was an entrepreneur. He wanted to create a company
that he could pass down to our children.
That would do great things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he had big ideas.
Yeah.
Okay. But in the meantime, you had to work.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, Ms. Sneiderman, I know it's
Yes, I know.
difficult in normal conversation, but I need you to respond yes and no so it's clear on what you're answering, because doesn't translate to anything. You have to answer yes or no, and then you can explain the answer if needed.
Okay.
Let's try it again. Ask another question.
Ms. Sneiderman, is it fair to say that once you were in a, not really 9-to-5 job, because it was probably more hours than that, but in a corporate world job, Mr. Sneiderman was then responsible for a lot of the home care stuff that you had taken care of before?
That's correct.
Okay. And that was a difficult transition, correct?
It was a difficult adjustment period, yes.
And you and Mr. Sneiderman you were struggling to make it work for both of you, correct?
Correct.
And at times, he would get annoyed with you, especially when you were traveling. Not with you, but with your situation.
He would be annoyed with the situation, that's correct.
Okay. And in fact, you told the police he could be an ass if he was upset with what you were doing, correct? With the way things were working out.
You want to say that again?
Did you not tell the police when he would get annoyed he could be an ass?
I don't remember saying that, but I'm sure that you could show me.
Okay. May I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm sorry, I'll mark it for identification.
You may.
Ms. Sneiderman, I'm going to hand you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 2. Ask you to read it from about halfway down and just see if it refreshes your memory about what you talked to the police about on November 24th, 2010.
So this is a couple
Just
days
read it to
after
yourself.
Rusty died?
Yes, just read it to yourself and see if it refreshes your memory.
Okay, so they were asking about
Just
GE.
read it to yourself.
Oh, I'm
And see if it
sorry.
refresh your memory.
I'm sorry, this,
Does it, let me just ask the question.
Uh-huh.
After reading that, Defendant's Exhibit number 2, does it refresh your memory?
no.
Okay,
You may approach.
thank you. Ms. Snyderman, do you recall that at times, due to working outside the home and the travel and the kids and all that, that you would get frustrated with him and he would get frustrated with you?
Yes,
And in fact, you had arguments with him?
one or two, yes.
Okay. Now, you mentioned in direct examination that y'all didn't fight, you discussed. But in fact,
Ms. Sneiderman, yes
Yes.
or no?
but in fact,
Explain,
I'm sorry.
Yes or no, ma'am? Go ahead.
But in fact, you did have arguments with him where voices were raised, correct?
One.
One. Okay.
Yes, yes,
Do you-
one.
Do you remember the date of that argument?
No, I don't remember the date.
But you remember in your years of marriage, it was one.
Oh, I'm sure there was, I thought you were asking about the period that we're talking about. You're asking about the entire time we were married?
No, we're talking about the period
Okay.
that you were at GE.
Yeah, there was one time that I think maybe our voices got raised more than we normally do. We were discussing the fact that he needed more time in the day to work. I needed to be at work, and I was frustrated, and he was frustrated. And then we proceeded to hire a nanny between the hours of 3 and 7 for multiple days a week to handle the stress of kids and dinner, and so that we could spend family quality time at home during dinner time. That
And in
was the
fact-
solution after that argument.
In fact, it got so frustrating or was so stressful for you that you even talked to your friends about it, correct?
Sure.
And one of those friends is Andrea Littman.
Yep.
She's someone you knew at the time for 2 or 3 years?
Yeah.
Okay, and you met
Yes.
her through Tammy Parker.
Yes.
And you told her that Mr. Sneiderman was having job difficulties.
Yes.
And you told her that you went back to work because Rusty quit his job. correct?
Yes.
And you told her that it was not your choice, that he was following his dreams, correct?
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Another person you talked to was Tammy Parker.
Yes.
And you've seen the email
Yes.
that Mr. Geary showed you. May I approach the witness?
You may.
Same email you've seen. It's stipulation number 5287 for the record.
Yep.
And in this email, which is dated in September,
Yeah.
you and Miss Parker communicated back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Now, in July, you had 2 trips you had to make for GE.
Yes.
One, I believe, was to Nevada, correct?
Yes.
And another one was to Colorado.
Yes.
Okay. And that was stressful on Mr. Snyder.
Yes.
He had a lot of childcare duties.
Yes.
He's trying to buy a business or build a business.
Yes.
And he's having trouble handling both responsibilities.
Yes.
And in September,
Yes.
the difficulties are still ongoing, correct?
The stress of my job and the amount of time it was taking. Yes.
Yes. And in fact, you tell Ms. Parker in an email, I'm not sure I have much of a choice but to go to the lake, which is what he wants.
Yes.
I have been told I need to give him that for now.
Yes.
And schmoozing with friends is not a top priority for the health of my marriage. Correct?
Yes.
And you go on to say, please do not forward this on. I know you understand. It is a rough patch right now for me.
Yes.
I guess I knew it was coming when I took the job, but not this bad.
Yep, that's correct.
I will keep trying for the 16th, but I cannot push it because it only ends in a fight, and I'm tired of fighting right now.
Okay. Was there a question?
The email is what you sent to Tammy Parker, correct?
Yes.
Okay. May I approach witness?
You may. And Mr. Rubin, that was 5287, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a good pause point for tonight. Let me give you these instructions, and we are going to pick back up with 5287 tomorrow. Let me give you these instructions. Don't move yet. Mr. Deputy, hold my door. Ladies and gentlemen, when I release you for the evening, do not discuss the case or allow anyone to discuss the case with you. Do not put yourself in a situation in which anyone is discussing the case with you or allowing yourself to overhear anything about the case. Do not remain upon the floor when I release you, because what I'm going to do is hold these individuals here so you can leave the building so there won't be any chance interaction with anyone who's seated here today. That's why I'm doing this procedure. And I did get a note earlier that someone needed to pick up their child, and as I told you during jury selection, we're going to end in a reasonable time so that you can pick up your children and do what things that you need to do. Ladies and gentlemen, do not read or look at any media coverage pertaining to this case. Do not go on the internet and do any independent investigation or inquiry about this case. Do not go to any location that may or may not have been mentioned about this case. Do not go to any location as indicated. All the evidence will come to you in the form of sworn testimony from this witness stand and any physical evidence that's introduced during the course of the trial and or any evidence that has been stipulated by the parties. You're more than welcome to bring something to snack and or drink with you tomorrow. We will follow a similar schedule as we did today. As you notice, the breaks are pretty short and tight, and that's what's going to take place during the duration of this trial. Do not consume any alcohol beverages during your lunch break. My preference is for you to leave your cell phones in the car, but if you do bring your cell phones and or laptop computers and or paging devices, make sure you turn them over to Deputy Moore and or his designee, but make sure you put them in an off position. That way they will not be going off during the course of the day. As I indicate, the lawyers, the parties, the media, they can't talk or interact with you. And I don't want you to try to seek them out. And don't talk to them or interact with them on any level or anyone else. Any questions about logistics? Hearing none, follow the instructions of Deputy Moore, and he's going to turn your phones back over to you. Now, your notepads, you can leave those in the jury room. Just turn them face down. No one's going to look at your notes but you. But you don't need to take those with you, because I don't want you to come tomorrow saying I left them at home. That's why I'm saying this, leave them there in the jury room. All right? Continue to wear your badges. My preference is wear them while you're in the building, but take them off when you get out your car. When you get out of your car and get here to the building, you're ready to come and go as you have been, okay? Follow the instructions of Deputy Moore, and you may exit my building very aggressively, and you may go home or wherever you want to go. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. All right? No, right now. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Mr. Deputy, we're at ease until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
I'm sorry. All rise. Your Honor.
I'll be back. Yes, sir, I believe Mr. Rubin. You may be seated. You may be seated. Yes, Mr. Rubin, you had a question for me?
Yes, Your Honor.
We're on the record with Faye Davis.
It may be your practice anyway. I would ask the court to instruct the witness not to discuss her direct or cross-examination with anybody, including her lawyer.
All right. I will do that instruction at this point in time. Ma'am, obviously you're, I see you right there. You have been subpoenaed. You have, it's going testimony. And what is being requested is for you not to discuss your case at this point in time. If anyone, you will be under oath tomorrow, and it's ongoing, because it's not reasonable for me to keep any witness on the stand for 30 hours without a break. So it's reasonable people go home, relax. You have any questions, Ms. Sneiderman, about anything I said?
No, sir.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Rubin?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Now we're going to resume tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock and follow a similar schedule, and you will be able to ask as many questions as you wish. You'll be able to do a thorough cross-examination and ask whatever you want, over whatever you want. It's just that we just have to break at reasonable time. And just for the communication purposes, one of the jurors just indicated they have aftercare and they just needed to leave to pick up their kid by 5:30. All right, and it wasn't anything to communicate with you. I just knew I was going to control the time, but that's all it is. Because I told him during jury selection we will stop at a reasonable time because sometimes people have a life outside of the courtroom, and I allow them to live that life. All right. What was my deputy? We had recess, deputy.
All rise.